alert, I love attention, and I am not going to judge myself for that anymore. And one of the best moments was I'm coming out of this black car and I have my sunglasses on and the bodyguard is like trying to block people from taking photos. And these guys pass by on the street and they're stopping. They're like, who is that? They are so convinced that I am a real life celebrity, which I am. And she's like, it's Sarah Plowman. It was so fucking epic. I gave myself that experience because I decided to take on that identity. Hello, my icons. I am so excited to have this chat with you guys today. I don't know if you can hear this, but right outside my office window, it is absolutely pouring. So I'm all cozied up. I've got warm clothes on. I have my favorite cotton blanket wrapped around me, and it's just the perfect weather for a little podcast chat with my favorite people. I am still floating from my branding photo shoot that I did about a week ago now. It was the most epic, iconic experience since starting my business. It was one of the most memorable days of my adult life. It was so fun. It was such a culmination of so much of the growth and expansion that I've gone through. And I just have so many things that I want to share with you about the whole experience. So today we're going to talk about creativity and my thoughts about creativity and reflections that I've had since going through this most recent photo shoot. I also have an upcoming episode with my beloved friend and brand photographer, Nicole. She and I have now done 3 shoots together, and this was definitely the largest scale shoot we've done together. We really collaborated on the entire creative process, from the story that we wanted to tell to the different locations to the wardrobe. I knew I wanted to style this shoot and I had a lot of outfits already purchased and in mind, but I called Nicole up. I'm like, hey, can you come over to my house and just help me make final decisions? Let's just knock it out. She and I are both generators with the sacral authority. So it's really helpful to like see the options and then we make really quick decisions. So we had 10 complete outfits, from jewelry to shoes, like the whole thing planned out in less than 2 hours. It was so fun. And my room looked like an explosion of beautiful, colorful things afterwards, but we had the best time. So we collaborated on everything leading up to it and then had the best day on actual photo shoot day, like just playing, having fun. So she and I are going to record a podcast episode together, sharing with you guys what that experience is like, best practices, and just pulling back the curtain on the kind of conversations that we have. She's also going to be guest teaching inside my membership in 2 weeks. So if you are not inside the magnetic membership, this is a great time to join because you will get to come to that call. She's going to talk all things branding. I mean, you're going to get like photo shoot tips, but also life coaching all in one. Nicole is absolutely amazing. So make sure that you jump into the magnetic membership so that you can come to that call. And then I am going to teach a masterclass on how to plan and pose for an iconic photo shoot, because I have learned a lot by a lot of trial and error over the last couple of years. And this is something that I have become really good at and am so passionate about. So I'm going to teach you the mindset and then the strategy. I'm going to give you best practices, tips on how to pose, tips on what to bring, tips on how to like schedule your time and what to think about, things that you would never think about. And I learned the hard way. So I'm going to pass that on to you. So those are some fun things that I have coming up for you. But today I want to talk about creativity and the creative process. This photo shoot has absolutely given me beautiful images that I can use on Instagram, I can use on my website, I can have them for the rest of my life. They've given me a beautiful result, and it was worth going through the process for that reason alone. But what I got out of the photo shoot was about so much more than some beautiful images. It was about how I grew in the process. It was about how my self-concept, how my identity shifted in this process. And you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of one of my favorite written passages ever by MFK Fisher. And if you are a longtime follower of mine, or if you've been to my masterclasses, you have heard me read this passage before and have heard me tear up because it makes me cry every time I read it. but I want to read a short excerpt for you now. MFK Fisher was a writer during World War II, and she wrote about food. She wrote books with amazing titles like Consider the Oyster and How to Cook a Wolf. And one of her books was called The Gastronomical Me, and she has a very short foreword to that book that she wrote. And I'm going to read you an excerpt from this forward. Now, remember, she is writing about food during World War II, a time of tragedy and chaos and uncertainty and suffering. And she's writing about food, and she's writing about wine, and she's writing about traveling the world and eating at all these places, restaurants, things like that. So she starts her forward off like this. People ask me, why do you write about food and eating and drinking? Why don't you write about the struggle for power and security and about love the way others do? They ask it accusingly, as if I were somehow gross, unfaithful to the honor of my craft. So I'm going to pause here because this reminds me of a moment that I had leading up to the photo shoot. The photo shoot was an investment of time. It was an investment of money. It was a pretty significant investment. It took up a lot of brain space. It took up a lot of like creative space. And at some point, my brain was like, what the fuck are you doing, Sarah? Like, why are you investing all of these resources for some photographs that you're going to post on Instagram and your website? Like, what are you doing? Why is this your priority? This should not be your priority. So I had my own inner critic piping up, just like MFK Fisher here is talking about her critics. Like, this should not be your priority. This should not be important to you. So sometimes your critics are going to be external and sometimes they are going to come from within your own brain. So my inner critic was piping up. Okay. So I'm going to pause there and I'm going to continue on reading her forward. The easiest answer is to say that, like most other humans, I am hungry, but there's more than that. It seems to me that our three basic needs for food and security and love are so mixed and mingled and entwined that we cannot straightly think of one without the other. So it happens that when I write of hunger, I am really writing about love and the hunger for it, and warmth and the love of it and the hunger for it. And then the warmth and richness and fine reality of hunger satisfied, it is all one. Whew, okay, I made it through without choking up. She goes on a little bit, but that's really the gist of what I wanted to share with you. She's saying, yes, I'm writing about food, but it's really about so much more than that. And when my inner critic piped up and was like, why are you doing this photo shoot? Like, there are so many more better, productive, serious things that you could be doing with your time and with your money and with your energy. I realized it's not about the photos, although we get to do it just for the photos too. By the way, let me be very, very clear. And not that you need to justify it, but there's a million ways I can justify wanting those photos. But I knew that the real reason I was doing it was for the expansion that I was going to experience, for who I was going to become in planning and then posing for this photo shoot, for the joy of it, for the expansion, for the experience of it. And we are so used to even unintentionally criticizing ourselves and being like, that's not a good enough reason. Well, like questioning ourselves, second guessing ourselves, when really we get to do things just because we love doing them, and also for who we become in the process, for the experience of the thing. It's not just the end result. It's about who you become in the process. And I experienced that in such a profound way, planning out this photo shoot and all of the discomfort that came up, all of the emotions that I had to allow, all of the ways that I expanded. And one of my biggest reflections now in hindsight has been about creativity, because I've started sharing some of the behind the scenes footage from this photo shoot, and the feedback that I have gotten. The number one thing that people are saying to me is, Sarah, these photos are so beautiful and they're so you. Almost every single person that has seen a behind the scenes photo from this photo shoot, seen the looks, seen the poses, seen the locations, they're like, this is so you. And that is the best compliment that I could possibly get from someone about these photos. They are an absolute reflection of who I am. It's a testament to my authenticity, to my knowing who I am, and my willingness to let other people see that truth about me, right? I'm honest with myself about who I am, and I'm unafraid to let other people see that honesty, to see who I am. which in general can be a very scary thing because when you let people see the real you, you open yourself up to rejection, right? It's such a vulnerable experience. You're like, I love this outfit. I love this idea for a photo shoot. But if I put it out there and I let people see it, what if they don't like it? They're going to be rejecting the real me. That feels very scary and very vulnerable. So in order to do this shoot, I had to be brave. I had to be vulnerable. I had to let myself be really seen. But the reward of that is so satisfying, and not just for the external validation. I'm glad that other people are enjoying the photos, and that is part of the fun of it. But it's about the pleasure that one experiences when one is authentic. So we're going to talk today about creativity, and I want to sell you on the fact that you are creative, the fact, the truth with a capital T, that you are creative, and why you should allow your creativity to flow and flourish. And it's very simple. So, as is often the case when I teach you something, I'm going to encourage you to let it be simple. We love to overcomplicate things. We love for things to be messy and look for problems and make them harder than they have to be. But this is actually very simple. So, as we go on this journey together, talking about creativity, I want to encourage you to let it be simple. I, for most of my life, told myself that I was not a creative person. I would literally say that sentence to myself and to other people. And I guarantee you that you are doing this in some way, shape, or form in your life right now and in your business. It might not look like that sentence. You might not be saying, I'm not creative. You might be, but it could be disguised in other ways. Like, I'm not a good writer. I'm not good at decorating my house. I'm not stylish, right? I'm not a good marketer. I'm not good at sales. Where in your life, where in your business, where are you taking on this identity? The first thing you need to know is that these identities that we take on are thoughts. They are not facts about you. They are simply thoughts that have been in your head for a long time, either because your own brain put them there or because someone else put them there for you. And you've repeated them for so long that they feel true. They feel true simply on the merit of how many times you've said them, but not because they're actually true about you. I spent 37 years telling myself I'm not a creative person. So it felt true because I spent 37 years telling myself that fact. And it only changed because one day I decided to stop telling myself that lie. So if you want to take on a new identity, you have to start with making a decision. This is hard for us because we think that to take on a new identity, we need outside permission. A lot of coaches are baffled by what I did, which is make multiple six figures in my coaching business before I had a certification. What's the number one thing that most coaches go out and do before they start their businesses or before they call themselves a coach? They go out and get a certification because they think that they need that external validation. They need external permission. Now, I am not knocking certifications. I myself ended up getting one because I wanted to, because I wanted access to that community. I wanted to be in that room. I wanted the extra knowledge. I wanted to hone my craft, but I did not get a certification because I needed someone outside of myself to give myself permission to take on the identity that I wanted. I remember, in fact, I have a picture of myself, a selfie that I took the day that I looked in the mirror and I was like, Sarah, you are a life coach. As of today, I simply declare you a life coach. And I went out in the world and started calling myself one. When people ask me what I did, this is before I had clients, long before my certification, before I had made my first dollar. I had no external evidence to support this new identity. It was simply a decision. I was going out and people would say, hey, what do you do? And I would say, hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a life coach. It literally came from a decision. So look at where you are telling yourself an unhelpful story about yourself, an unhelpful identity, and make the decision to just claim that identity today. Just switch it up. Literally like that. Like with the snap of your fingers, you just declare, I am creative. I am stylish. I am great at sales. I am a marketer. Whatever it is, just own that identity and then start looking for evidence that that's true and start proving to yourself that it's true. Okay. So it has to start with a decision. And I would encourage you to start with creativity because creativity is a great umbrella for all of these things. Like if you start to see the things that you want to create in your life as an act of creation. Almost like an artist sees their paintings or a musician sees their song that they write. See the things that you want to produce in your life, whether it's something in your business, how you're dressing, what you're cooking for dinner tonight, what you're doing with your time, going for a walk, going for a bike ride. I think of myself literally even when I'm out riding my bike, which I've started doing again recently. I packed my bike away for the winter, but I just got it tuned up. And so I've been riding it a lot lately. I went on this beautiful 12-mile bike ride the other night, and I feel like I am creating art when I'm riding my bike. This is just how I feel in general moving through the world. I think of myself as a living, breathing act of creation, a work of art. I even feel that way when I am pedaling on my bicycle. Like I am performance art out on the street. So this can infuse every aspect of your life. And in fact, I recommend that you live your life this way. Why? Because it is so fun. It is so fun for you, and it is so fun for the people around you. And you are here on this earth to experience pleasure. So those first 37 years of my life or so, where I was telling myself that I was not a creative person, I was robbing myself of the pleasure of creating outfits, creating a beautiful space to live in, creating poetry, whatever I wanted to create. I was robbing myself of that pleasure and that experience. And I was also robbing my adoring public of consuming my creations, of witnessing my creations. I literally think of the people who are walking down the street, watching me walk by in my outfits as people at an art gallery, the same way that people would go to look at a painting or go listen to a piece of music. I know that it brings people pleasure, and it doesn't bring everyone pleasure. I can hear the naysayers already. Like our brains always want to go to the negative. Like, yeah, but not everyone feels that way. Some people think it's weird. Some people are going to judge me. Yes, of course, that's true, right? Like not every piece of art is for everyone, right? People have opinions about art, but isn't that part of the point, that it starts conversations and it elicits some kind of emotional response for people? That is so fun. And I know that I'm not for everyone, but I know that for my people, it brings them pleasure when they see me out in the world wearing my beautiful outfits. It brings them pleasure when I write my beautiful posts on Instagram or on Facebook and they read them. It elicits an emotion for them. Maybe they hate them, but it's also something unique. It's something different. It's something out in the world that has only come from me, that couldn't have come from any other place. And it's here to shake up your day-to-day life. How fun is that? How fun is that for me? How fun is that for everybody else? And it has a ripple effect into the world. Even this podcast episode, I don't know exactly what the ripple effect this podcast will have on you as you're listening to it, but it will have one. Whether you love me, whether you hate me, whether like who knows what's going to come of this, but it will have an impact on you, and it will have a ripple effect into your life, which will then have a ripple effect into the people in your community, in your life. So every time you show up, you are impacting the world. You are creating an experience for yourself and for others. And the pleasure of that experience comes from authenticity, because the greatest pleasure that we can experience in life, in my opinion, is to be our authentic selves. My job, my number one job on this planet, is to be as Sarah Plowman as I can be. That is my number one job, to be authentic. And that is the thing that brings me the most contentedness, the most satisfaction, the most happiness. And this does not mean that I don't feel uncomfortable emotions. I do all of the time. This is not about being happy all the time. This is about being in alignment all of the time. This is about being in acceptance all of the time, about who you are. And I will absolutely speak on this deeper in a future episode of the podcast, but being in alignment, being in acceptance is the highest vibration that we can be in as human beings. I get to experience that all of the time, and it's absolutely amazing. No matter how great I'm feeling or how awful I'm feeling, no matter how strong in my body the sensations are of my current emotional state, I am giving myself permission to be so me. And I lived very differently than that most of my life. So I have a lot to compare and contrast it to. And I can tell you that hands down, 110%, I would choose this way of living, this authenticity over and over and over and over and over again. I could never go back to living the way that I was before, which was so judgmental of myself and so afraid of what other people thought about me and people pleasing, trying to be the version of Sarah Plowman that I thought was acceptable to other people, the version of Sarah Plowman that I thought other people would love, to the point where I didn't even know who I was. I didn't even know how to be I mean, is it any wonder then that I had this sentence floating through my head for most of my life that I'm not creative? Because I was so out of touch with myself. Because let's pause here and let's talk about the definition of creativity. The root of the word creative is, of course, Latin. And it literally means to bring forth. To create something is to bring forth. So if you want to be creative, all you have to do is bring forth what is already inside of you, the truth that is already inside of you. So you have to connect with yourself, go inward, and know what is true about you. So to be creative with my outfits, I have to bring forward my taste in clothes, what I want to wear. To be creative with my podcast episodes or my posts on social media or my masterclasses, I have to bring forth my opinion and what it is I want to say. To be creative in how I decorate my house, I have to bring forth what I think looks pretty on my walls or in my rooms or on my floors. It's not about anything outside of yourself. It's about connecting with what is true inside of you and being audacious and courageous and letting that be reflected in the 3D world so that your clothes are an expression of you. Your house is an expression of you. Your writing, your teaching, anything you create in your business, who you're spending your time with, what you're eating, how you're raising your kids is an expression of you. And I can't tell you how many times women have come to me on my coaching calls and I'll ask their opinion about something and they'll say, I don't know. And I press a little bit harder and I ask them again. And we slow down and we create a safe space for them to go inwards. They always know the answer. When I ask you, what do you want? What do you want to say? What do you want to wear? What do you want to do? And sometimes I had a coaching call like this recently where when I asked the woman what she wanted to do, she immediately went to what her husband wanted. And then I interrupted her and I was like, oh, look what your brain just did. It went to what someone else wanted. I'm going to bring you back. What do you want to do? And she's like, okay, yeah. And then she started talking again and she started talking about what her kids wanted. And I interrupted her again and I said, you're doing it again. Isn't that fascinating? Look how hard it is. And it happened like 3 or 4 times in a row where I asked her what she wanted. And it was so automatic that she went to what other people wanted that it took a couple minutes for her to stop and actually connect with herself. And when we finally got there, she cried because it was so rare for her to connect with herself. And because when she actually did connect with herself, she knew what the answer was. She knew immediately what she wanted. So it's not that you're not creative. It's just that you're not taking the time to connect with yourself, or you're not allowing yourself to feel the discomfort that you have to feel in order to connect with yourself and answer, what is it that I want? What is it that I want to eat? What is it that I want to do or not do? What do I want to wear? What do I want to answer to this person? What do I want to say? What do I want to teach on? You have the answer inside of you. And to be creative simply means to bring it forth. And when you say you don't know, or when you're telling yourself, I'm just not creative, or some version of that lie, all you're doing is trying to protect yourself from judgment. And you think that you're trying to protect yourself from judgment of other people, but other people are simply a mirror. They're just holding a mirror up to you. What you're really trying to do is protect yourself from your own self-judgment. So leading up to this photo shoot, I had to get honest with myself about what I wanted the experience to be, what I wanted the photos to look like, what I wanted to wear. And then I had to drop any judgment that I had about those answers, those honest, authentic answers. I had to be audacious and say, this is what I want. I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm not going to make excuses for it. I'm not going to judge it. I'm going to love my desires. I'm going to let myself have my desires, and then I'm going to let myself go live it out. I'll give you an example of this. I was walking through the park with my kids a couple of months ago, and I had a really pretty outfit on, and I asked my older son, MJ, to take some video of me for B-roll footage. The day was absolutely beautiful. The park was packed. There were tons of people out, and we spent at least an hour in the park. It was very clear that we were doing like a photo shoot, and there were some stretches of like where I was walking by this one part of the park, and then there was a fountain that I wanted to walk by, and I wanted to like twirl and like look at the camera. So I had this whole like sequence planned out, and we did it. One of these sequences we did at least 5 times. Like it was very obvious that we were doing a photo shoot, right? We weren't just trying to sneak in a couple of quick photos. We were out here taking up space, doing this in front of everyone. And in the past, I would have felt really embarrassed. Embarrassed for several reasons and judged by other people. I would have thought, like, what are they thinking about the fact that I'm having my kid do this? Are they judging me that I'm a bad mom, or I'm like using my kid for child labor or something? Are they going to think that I'm vain? Are they going to think that I am superficial, right? I had all of these judgments, but really, and I was projecting them onto other people, potentially, right? I don't know what the strangers in the park were actually thinking about me, but that was my fear. But I wasn't afraid of them thinking that. It's really that part of me was thinking those things, right? Part of me was saying, you're a bad mom. You should be like playing with your kids instead of having them take videos of you, or you're superficial, or like all these judgments, right? Where my brain just wanted to be an asshole to me. So in order to do that photo shoot and to have that time in the park with my kids and to have that B-roll footage, I had to know what my opinion was and have my own back, my opinion. So I told myself, I love that I'm doing this. This is a great opportunity for me and my kids. This is a bonding experience. I also realized that I love performing in front of an audience. I mean, you guys, this is not news to any of us, but it really hit me in a new way that day. I looked at the video that MJ took of me, and it was so good because people were watching me. I looked so much more natural, and there were some really candid moments where I was interacting with the audience. So I would catch people looking at me and I would blow kisses to them. Or one woman was talking at me while I was walking by being filmed, and she's like, you look so beautiful. And I turned and I winked at her and I said, thank you. We captured all of that on film, and it made such great footage. So as I'm watching it later that day, I realized I really thrive in front of an audience. And the last photo shoot that I did, there were about 3 people in the room besides me. There were 3 people watching me. There was my photographer, and then I had an assistant, and my photographer had an assistant. And we were in a studio the whole time. And I did want some studio shots this time, but I was like, we need to take this photo shoot onto the streets. I need people watching me because it pumps me up. Like it helps me turn on that performer side of me. And as soon as I realized that, I felt so embarrassed. My cheeks got so red. And this is just me sitting in my room, right? I'm just having this moment all by myself. And I was so embarrassed. Like, who the fuck do you think you are? Like, you're going to go out and you're going to like put on this whole production and like, you're going to go peacock and show off in front of people. I just had all kinds of shame and judgment. Like, it was insane. So I let that wash over me. But then I was like, yeah, I love that. I love attention. That was probably one of the biggest judgments that I had, and I was projecting onto other people, was like, oh, Sarah just loves attention. I do. Spoiler alert, I love attention. And I am not going to judge myself for that anymore. So in my room, feeling the red cheeks, feeling that embarrassment, I let that wash over me. I rode it like a wave. And on the other side of it, I owned the fact that I love attention. And I said, do I need to feel shame or embarrassment about that? Does that make me a lesser person? Is that a bad thing about me? And I decided, no, I don't think that's a bad thing about me. I believe that I have been this way my entire life. In fact, one of my first memories is being on stage performing at a ballet recital. I have a picture of it. I was maybe 4 years old and loving it. Like, this is in my DNA. And I have spent most of my life judging myself for this. Why? Why is that a bad thing? It's like when people judge you for wanting to have a lot of money or for thinking you're beautiful. We prioritize humility and being humble and not thinking too much of ourselves. And I just think that is bullshit. I want to be my number one fan. I want to not judge any aspect of me. And me wanting attention, again, is not hurting anyone. It's actually bringing pleasure into the world. I experience pleasure when I get attention, and other people experience pleasure when they give me attention. Think about the things that you give your attention to and how they bring you pleasure. Okay? It's like just think about that. So, I decided I'm not going to judge myself for this anymore. I am going to design my photo shoot so that I can be in front of an audience. So we're going to do some photos in the studio, but we are going out onto the streets. We're going onto the streets of Philadelphia. And not just that, I want as many people there as possible. Like, we're going to do it on a Friday. We're going to do it when it's busy. And when we're in the studio, I want more people there. So my photographer had 2 assistants this time. I brought an assistant. We brought the makeup artist just so I could have more eyes on me. And it fired me up in the studio. And then we went to a hotel. I had booked a suite for the night right in Center City, Philadelphia. We had the 2 assistants that my photographer had brought. They were playing paparazzi in this little scene we created. We hired an extra to be my bodyguard, and we put on a show for the people on the streets of Philadelphia. And one of the best moments was when we were taking these photographs. We have like the stage paparazzi shoots, but people are walking by. They're not getting the full context. So they're not necessarily grasping that this is like a staged scene. So at some point, we're in the middle of shooting and I'm coming out of this black car and I have my sunglasses on and the bodyguard is like trying to block people from take photos. And then against the hotel wall, kind of across the sidewalk, is my friend and assistant Lauren, who I brought, and she's filming all of this on her iPhone. She's telling me about this later, by the way. So I'm just up there doing my thing. I'm posing. I'm like, hamming it up, loving every second of it. And these guys pass by on the street and they're stop and talk to Lauren. They're like, who is that? They are so convinced that I am a real life celebrity, which I am. They're like, who is that? And she looks up at them and she's like, it's Sarah Plowman. And they're like, who? Like, they're so convinced. They're like, this must be someone famous. We just haven't heard of her. She's like, it's Sarah Plowman. They're like, oh, okay. And they keep walking, fully convinced that they had just seen a celebrity walking into the W Hotel. It was so fucking epic. I gave myself that experience because I let myself be creative. I decided to take on that identity. Then I allowed my creative channel to open by knowing all I have to do is bring forward what is true about me. And all that I had to do to bring forward what was true about me, the fact that I love to be famous and I love attention and I want to be out performing for everyone as I'm doing this photo shoot, is I had to stop judging that about myself. And here's the miraculous thing. I had the best time during this photo shoot and I did not feel self-conscious one time. And I don't think that's ever happened to me in a photo shoot before. I was just so in the moment. I think I was feeling nervousness and excited. Like we started off at the studio and I definitely was like a little bit tense in my body when we first started, but I cannot say that I was self-conscious. I was so present and I was so excited and I was so comfortable in my body because I wasn't worried about what other people were thinking about me, because I wasn't worried about what I was thinking about me. I had dropped the judgment of myself. So it didn't matter what the people in the room were thinking. It didn't matter what the people on the street were thinking, because I knew what I thought about myself and there was no judgment. There was just unconditional love and unconditional acceptance of, this is the experience that you wanted. This is what you wanted to wear. This is who you wanted watching you. This is where you wanted to do it. You knew exactly what you wanted, Sarah, and you gave it to yourself. And you deserve to enjoy the experience. You deserve to have the exact experience that you wanted. And because of that, it was just pure pleasure. And guess what? That has a ripple effect out into the world, because everyone else around me could feel that energy and got to enjoy it as well. It was magic for everybody. Okay. So You are creative. Look at the sentences that you are saying to yourself. Look at the identities that you are claiming and make a decision today to claim the identity that serves you. Remember that creativity is simply a bringing forth of what is true about you. And that is not something that you have to go search for. It's something that's already inside of you, and you access it by peeling back layers of guilt and shame, by being honest with yourself about who you are and what you like and what you want, and then dropping your own judgment, not anyone else's, dropping your own judgment about your desire, unconditionally loving yourself, unconditionally accepting all parts of you, and then having the courage, having the audacity to live it out loud. And that becomes a lot easier when you are not judging yourself. I want you to think about, let's say, okay, my hair is blonde, and someone came up to me and like, Sarah, you look so bad with pink hair. Like your hair is pink and it looks terrible on you. There is no part of me that would be upset by that because there's no part of me that believes that that's true. Like my hair is not pink. You get to feel that way about any criticism that someone levels at you, as if it's like the most ridiculous, untrue, doesn't even compute in your brain thing you've ever heard, all because you yourself do not believe it. It's like if you close the receptors, their criticism has nothing. There's no part of you that thinks that that's true. There's no part of you to receive that because it can't land because it's not true. And that's how you get there, by dropping your own judgment, by unconditionally accepting and loving yourself. And then you will feel free. You will feel free and you will have constant access to your creative flow because you are creative, because you are you. There is no other you in the entire world. And you are the only one who can bring forward the true you. Your job is to be as you can be. Let it be an act of devotion, an act of creation, an act of love for you and for everyone else around you. It gets to be, and in fact, is inevitably a pleasurable experience when you are your authentic self, for you, for the people around you. And we are mentors, right? We are leaders. So not only is beneficial for you, you're leading by example. You are giving other people permission to be their authentic selves, to be creative in their own way when you show up in this way. Simply by living your life in alignment, you give the people around you permission to do the same. And I cannot think of a better gift to give yourself or the world. I love you so much. Go out and create. I'll see you next time.